I worry for Plymouth because I think they would have automatically been one of the favourites to struggle in the Championship because as decent team as they are, Plymouth, then they're not going to be one of the ones that are going to challenge him for the playoffs and the title and automatic promotion. So they're automatically in a position where they were going to be struggling. Now with Rooney being appointed, I'm really concerned for them, if I'm honest. I'm really, really concerned.
Welcome back to Small Heath Alliance FC. And today, at the time of recording, we found out that Wayne Rooney is going to be the new Plymouth Argyle manager. And I just want to do a bit of a preemption, really, and say this video isn't going to be a Wayne Rooney bashing session. I think as Blues fans, we've had enough of that over the last 6 to 8 months. This is going to be, for the Plymouth fans, really, and for what they can expect from their new manager in Wayne Rooney. And at the time of recording, I was watching the FA Cup final today, and Rooney was doing the punditry, and he said he was the best man for the job. So make of that what you will. But let's get into it. And Dan, I'm going to hand it straight over to you. And what are your thoughts about Wayne Rooney getting the Plymouth Argyle job?
Well, to be honest, I'm stunned, really. I didn't see that coming at all, that he'd be appointed manager of Plymouth Argyle. And to be honest, after what happened at Blues, I couldn't see him coming back into manager or anybody giving him a chance for quite a while. And also, he's gone to a Championship club as well. Plymouth are I've got a lot of time for Plymouth, actually. They're a well-supported club. They've got a great fan base. And when they came to St. Andrews, they brought the noise. So
they also have to travel hundreds of miles pretty much every away game.
You've got to respect that, haven't you? That they travel an awful lot because of where they're located in the country.
And so Plymouth and Sunderland away fans have a lot of my respect because they have to travel 50 miles just to even get anywhere close to where they're going.
And they always come in numbers as well, so you got to respect that. And when I saw the news that Wayne Rooney had been appointed there, I was absolutely, really sort of couldn't believe it. There's no secret to the fact that he didn't have a great time at Birmingham City, and I'm not sure at the moment that the Plymouth fans actually realise what they're in for. We do, and we're going to give them a bit of an insight in this short podcast to let them know what to expect. They're a very similar quality team to Birmingham at the moment because they just escaped relegation above us only by 1 point. So there's very little difference between their team and our team because the league table said that. Yeah, unfortunately, we were relegated and they were at the right side of that line. But that tells us that he's not going to be really inheriting a greatly different team than he had at Birmingham because this. Of where they finished just above us, and that makes me worry for them because of what he did at us, but at our team that if he hasn't got better players or highly better players, then I can't see what's going to be different at Plymouth, to be honest, Matt.
Yeah, and I believe they're a pretty well run club actually, and they do manage to balance the books quite well year on year. I don't think they're a massively big spending club, so. The only advantage Rooney's going to have this time, which he didn't have at Blues, was he's got a summer transfer window, and a lot of fans are going, let's see what he can do with the summer transfer window, because of course we got to the 1st of January with Blues, and he actually got the sack that day, didn't he? Remember, or the 2nd of January after the Leeds game that me and you were at, and we were just like, okay, it's now time, definitely time for Rooney to go. Yeah, it really was at that desperate point, really, for us as Blues fans. So that's what a lot of people are holding on to. What will Rooney do with the summer transfer window? But before we get into sort of his style of play and what Plymouth fans can expect, I think football and politics are the only two industries and sectors where you can actually fail upwards. It's bizarre, isn't it? You almost get rewarded for failure, or And I have no interest in Burnley. I have no interest in Vincent Kompany to any extent. But even he's now dubbed to be the next Bayern Munich manager. Bayern Munich manager. How is that possible? How is Rooney getting the Blues job, failing, and then getting the Plymouth Argyle job? I don't get it. It seems to be this culture's changing of it's not what you know, it's who you know. People want status. People want global superstars. People want to attract in the merchandise sales, don't they? And the fact Rooney's getting jobs and Kompany's getting jobs screams.
Partly because of why he was appointed. He's a name. We did that. We made that problem. Our club made no, didn't try and hide the fact that they were after profile and impressions, as they called him. And so you certainly got them all right, but for the wrong reasons. But also as well, I believe he's very, very friendly with Neil Dewsbury at Plymouth, who he knew him from Everton. I think that played a big part in him being appointed.
Well, there's no doubt the impact and pulling power that Rooney can have. I mean, Birmingham City are the biggest revenue club in the Championship Championship, or were last season outside of the parachute payments. And I think a big part of that was the fact that Rooney was in for that time, the publicity we gained through that. And fair enough, it wasn't good for the club in terms of, the football was rubbish and we had a miserable time as fans during that time, didn't we? But there was no doubt it pulled in revenue, it pulled in numbers. So my point in saying that is there is no doubt the name Rooney will attract attention to your club and it will bring in revenue, it will bring in attention. Unfortunately for Blues, it didn't work out and it made our club become a circus.
You see, the thing is, it may attract players because of his name. Fair enough, he has still got a really good profile in the game because of his playing career. There's no doubt that he was a really, really good player. You can't hide behind the fact, and he's got we should say, a global presence because of his
world class.
Yeah, and that's going to attract players. But the issue you're going to have at Plymouth is that okay, you've got the profile, but our players want to go and play for him, knowing what happened at Birmingham. And that will also play in their minds as well. Can I give you a few stats about him because I think this is key to what we're talking about as well. In a moment, we're going to give Plymouth fans a real insight of what and how he operated at Birmingham City and what we feel as fans. But these are his stats in the teams that he's at. He was caretaker manager first at Derby County, as we know. Played 11, won 3, drew 3, lost 3, with a average points per game of 1.18. Then he became the actual manager of Derby for 73 games, won 22, lost 17. Won 22, drew 17, lost 34, with an average points per game of 1.14. Now we know at Derby County that they were in financial trouble. It was a difficult time, and also he had Liam Rossini there as his assistant, and we know how well he's doing there. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Wayne Rooney, but I'm saying is that Liam Rossini is likely to have quite an impact on the way that they progress. Then he went on to America, to DC United there, had 53 games in charge, 14 wins, 13 draws, 26 losses, with an average points per game of 1.04. Then he came to Birmingham City, 15 games in charge, 2 wins, 4 draws, 9 defeats, average points per game of 0.67.
That's a pretty poor record across the board consistently, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's 4 teams. Yeah, you could argue about Derby County, that they were in financial trouble, didn't have the resources. You could argue about DC United. It's a different league to the English leagues, and obviously there's different things that go along with that. And he would argue at Birmingham City that he never got a transfer window. He inherited somebody else's team, but I think that you could look at all those type of things, but at the end of the day, if you're appointed as a coach of a football team, no matter who's there, you try and get the best out of your players, and those statistics don't suggest to me that in any of those clubs he got the best out of his players.
Yeah,
don't know what you think.
Well, we can attest to that being at Birmingham City, can't we? And I guess this kind of goes hand in hand with your point. I just want to talk about his style of football. Very high press, very high line, plays out from the back. Plymouth fans, I'm not going to be prepared to poo yourself at home games because he likes to play from the keeper. Literally, the keeper has a massive role in building up the play. The centre halves and the whole defensive line have a big impact in pushing the ball forward. He likes How many times, Dad, were the Blues fans on edge because Ruddy would pass it to Sanderson? They all looked clueless. So I think his style of play is fine if you have the players to do it. And we didn't have the players to do it. And Rooney didn't have a transfer window with us, so we couldn't bring in the players that he wanted. However, it almost felt like it was a hill he was willing to die on because he didn't change it for a significant amount of time. Yeah. And we all knew as Blues fans, our players were very, very uncomfortable playing this style of football. Yeah. It was uncomfortable for the players. It was uncomfortable for the fans. It was painful to watch. And you could see Ruddy, Sanderson, they didn't know what to do. They looked clueless, looked like a deer in the headlights. And he plays high line, high pressure, high pace. But I remember that. I don't know whether you remember these 2 games in particular, but there's 2 games, home games, which I remember, which we got caught out massively for playing the line too high. It was Leicester at home. We got caught on the break 2 or 3 times from the our corner. The defence was hanging on the halfway line. And when you've got Dewsbury Hall and who's the fast player for Leicester? Mavididi going up the front, you get caught out every time. And Stoke at Boxing Day. What a tragic game that was. But again, how many times did we get caught out? We got caught out 3 or 4 times just from our line being really high. So he plays that style of football. It's terrifying to watch.
But he persisted with it.
He persisted with it. I mean, who knows whether he's going to get the chance to bring in the players to suit that style of football with Plymouth. At Blues, he tried it. It didn't work. It was terrible style of football. And the fact he didn't try and change it showed to me immaturity in the coaching world.
It was, and the point you made is a really, really valid one. He came in, there was already a set of players there playing a system under John Eustace, and automatically it was almost like he clicked his fingers, expected them just to change immediately. But actually, we didn't have the players to suit that system. They just weren't those style of players, but he expected them to play. I remember going back as well, Matt. It's exactly what the thing as Gianfranco Zola did when he came in to replace Gary Rowett. He did exactly the same. And I think these really high-profile players like Zola and like Rooney think that they can do it, but they think the other players, so just because they can do it, they think that all these players are like the players they've been used to playing with.
Well,
but they're
Rooney,
not.
Rooney had Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Scholes, Rio Ferdinand, Van der Sar. He had world-class players around him, so they could play world-class football. We're talking Deion Sanderson, Christian Bielek. You know, we're talking an average to below-average championship team in terms of just the players, just calling it what it is. And, well, if you say average or above average, they still weren't good enough to play the style of football that Rooney wanted us to play. And as a fan, Dad, weren't it painful to watch?
It was painful to watch, and I felt sorry for the players sometimes. They obviously, the ball was like a hot potato. They just didn't want it. They played, but just anything. Just when the ball came backwards, like they were told obviously not to hoof it. So they were trying, but obviously we were getting closed down because obviously the opposition had worked out what we were doing. But Rooney weren't able to change the system, and that's what needed to happen, unfortunately. And as you point out, he has got a transfer window now with Plymouth, but it depends on what their budget is and what type of players they can bring in. I worry for Plymouth because I think they would have automatically been one of the favourites to struggle in the Championship because as decent team as they are, Plymouth, then they're not going to be one of the ones that are going to challenge him for the playoffs and the title and automatic promotion. So they're automatically in a position where they were going to be struggling. Now with Rooney being appointed, I'm really concerned for them, if I'm honest. I'm really, really concerned. So to me, I think that we know what Rooney's like, and I think Plymouth fans, if you're watching this, I don't mean this in a derogatory way. Now that Rooney's been appointed, the circus is coming to town. Because when I say that, I mean Rooney will bring all of the media attention and everything and all his baggage with him to your club, and every game is a target, isn't it, for the fans and everybody else?
We can't sing the songs that the away fans used to sing.
Disgusting.
We became
disgusting.
We became a laughing stock, didn't we? Everyone was chanting. It wasn't about the football; it was about Rooney.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're completely right, Dad. You hit the nail on the head. He brings the circus to town in a very negative way. You're always the laughing stock. You're always in the news. Everyone's always laughing, pointing fingers. Rooney's. And I'm with you, Plymouth fans. Genuinely, you strap in because you're in for an absolute roller coaster of a ride. And his coaching aside, I don't think he's a good coach. I don't think he's very good at managing the players. There's a couple of things which really I didn't like as well, and it was the way he carried himself as a manager. A lot of Blues fans didn't like the fact he didn't wear the badge on the line.
Yeah.
He didn't wear the merchandise. It depends who you talk to. Some fans think that's a really little thing. Some fans think that's a massive thing because, Tony Mowbray's first picture when he became manager, he was in the Blues logo, and then on the pitch he had the big Blues duffel coat, and he had the Blues branding, and so did Eustace, and Eustace gets the mick taken out of him for doing the badge tapping, but it meant something to the fans. We didn't ever see that emotion from Rooney, did we? And in post-match interviews, he's very happy to throw his players under the bus, and don't get me wrong, the players need to be held to account, but I think a good manager protects their players and you read between the lines of what they're trying to say for improvements. We saw it with Gary Rowett. Fair enough, he's got his critics, but he's a very professional manager and he says what he says, but you have to read between the lines, don't you? And to me, that's a good manager. So, I think Plymouth fans, you are in for a roller coaster. The circus is possibly going to come to town, but I don't have very good or fond memories of the Rooney era. I mean, there was a couple of good games. I don't know if you remember, Ipswich at home was quite a good game. We drew 2-2 to Ipswich. Again, a very glimmer there. And even Leicester at home, decent sprinkles in there. But overall, his 15 games in charge were pretty miserable.
Well, and, regardless of what people say, he didn't get us relegated. He didn't help. I mean, there's no doubt. But a season is over 46 games. It wasn't Rooney alone that got us relegated. And, people can say that if they want to. But that's not the truth. The club have been let down by the players and all sorts of other reasons. But Rooney definitely didn't help.
It was a big, we can't deny it had a massive impact.
But he wasn't the reason.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't the reason. And I don't blame Rooney. Rooney didn't say, I want to come here. The fact that Rooney came in and everyone knows this was the big mistake. It was on Cook and the board. They wanted their man. They wanted to bring someone new in. And we all know, and we've said several times, haven't we, Dad, we're not going to reflect on that too much now as Blues fans. We're going to move forward. But that wasn't Rooney's fault.
But that's exactly the same with Plymouth. Dewsbury wants Rooney.
Yeah.
And he's got him, and it's exactly the same. So it's just history repeating itself.
Repeat, isn't it?
It's all over again. And one point I want to pick up on that you said, Matt, was which is really, I think, important, is that in the press conferences you talked about, there's lots of stammering and I'm not, that's not a criticism of the man at all. But you want a manager that's going to come across with confidence, and even in the bad times, to give you as a fan the impression that everything's going to be all right. But you never got that. It was always this and that, and throwing the players under the bus, and saying they're not good enough and stuff like that. That just doesn't work. For a fan, that doesn't give you any confidence at all.
I mean, my personal low point of his press post match interviews was Boxing Day Stoke, and he said, "I can't believe what I'm watching sometimes." You're the manager?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You can't believe what you're watching, but you've had a week on the training pitch with them. You've set them up, and it comes back to what we said there, didn't we? Our players looked. No one wanted to play. No one wanted the football. Everyone looked like. They're
scared.
Yeah, they looked terrified.
Yeah, they're scared.
They looked absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
And if you've got the players who are hungry to do it, they're confident to do it on the ball. His style of football could work, but I don't think Plymouth is the club where he's going to get the chance to do that. No disrespect to Plymouth, I really don't mean that in a derogatory way towards your club. To play the style that Rooney plays, you need world-class. In my opinion, you need world-class players, and you're not going to get that at Plymouth, or even in the bottom half of the Championship.
Well, after this appointment, this really is going to be the defining moment for him now, because he's got no excuses now. He's got a pre-season under his belt, so in fact he'll have longer in his pre-season than he got the whole of our club, so he can get his players through the pre-season, getting familiar with his style of play, what he wants, etc. He will have some money to spend. I don't know what the budget is at Plymouth. I can't imagine it's going to be low.
It's not going to be
high. But he will be able to presume, chop and change a few players and attract a few players. Yeah. But once that season starts and that first ball is kicked, then that's where he'll really be judged now, because he can't use the excuse, I didn't get to get the players in, or I didn't have a chance to work with them, because that'll all go away now. Because at Plymouth, he's got no excuse. I do genuinely, I hope he succeeds. I really do. As a man, I hope that Rooney does succeed with Plymouth. I genuinely mean that as well. He was terrible at our club, and there's no denying that. But if he's successful at Plymouth, then fine. Maybe the circumstances at Birmingham City weren't right. Yeah, there were a lot of things against him at Birmingham. He just replaced a really popular manager. Not his fault, because he was brought in after John Eustace. And a lot in the press about, we were sixth when he came in. Yeah, we were sixth, but that was a real false. Everybody knew that was a false position. There was about 4 points between sixth where we were and about 15th, and we still went down the table. So he replaced a really popular manager. He didn't have a transfer window. He's saying that, and that is true. He didn't bring any players in, and also as well. The fans never really took to him, and there's no hiding behind that.
We tried. We did try.
We tried. We got behind him. We did, and the Plymouth fans as well. Just a final point for me as well. We know how you're feeling. Now that he's been appointed, I remember the feeling when Rooney was appointed at Birmingham City. I was deflated, because I didn't think he was a good appointment before he'd even got through the door. But in my mind, I thought, you know what, he's our manager now. We've got to support him. I'm sure you'll feel the same about him. You'll give him a chance and get behind him. But for all the reasons we've spoken about, outside of those mitigating factors that I've just mentioned, he was not good for us, and he didn't have any real positive impact at all on the club.
A little bit of sympathy to some extent. I think he was stitched up by Cook again, though, in the context of this no-fear football. And then suddenly he was always compared to this no-fear football, weren't he? And he tried to play front-footed football with back-footed players. So we were used to playing out of possession, weren't we, under Eustace? We were used to playing out of possession, counter-attacking football, and only having a couple of chances a game, but really capitalise. That was our style, and it worked, and we did okay. And then Rooney comes in, front-footed, no-fear football. It just didn't work.
I don't think you heard the first bit. I don't think you heard the no bit. So we just played fear football. but you're right. He was stitched up like that in terms of, there was almost an expectation on him that he'd completely change. I hate that when owners think that managers can just come in and just literally turn the club 100 or the players around 180 degrees without any extra players or any time to do it. That's what happened here. That's what happened before us, and I hope it doesn't happen at Plymouth.
Yeah. So for us, it was the wrong manager at the wrong time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? Blues fans, Plymouth fans, please get in touch. Please drop us a comment below. And we just want to remind you that we are a family-based podcast. We don't allow abusive or foul language in the comment section. And I'm not going to lie, they will just be immediately deleted. And it is in the comment section below on our pinned comment. We do say, we pride ourselves that families sit down and watch these videos with their kids. It's a family-based content podcast. And we know a topic like Rooney, it does spark emotion. It does bring back all those memories, especially from the Blues fans. So please, if you are going to leave a comment, comment. Keep it clean, keep it respectful, and would really, really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. But please, if you like this video, as I said, don't forget to give us a comment. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well. Always helps with the algorithm. And if you haven't already, please check us out on our social media channels, on our X page and our Instagram page. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future content. And me and Dad will see you on the next video.